Groundskeeper started his day like any other. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting long shadows across the dew-covered greens. He enjoyed these quiet mornings, the only sounds being the gentle hum of the early birds and the soft rustle of the wind through the trees. The golf course had always been his second home. He knew every nook and corner, every blade of grass, and the gentle slopes of the fairways. His job was simple yet satisfying. Keep the course in perfect shape for the players who came every day, sometimes in droves, other times alone, seeking peace among the neatly lined trees and perfectly trimmed grass. On this particular morning, as he pushed his mower along the far edge of the course, something unusual caught his eye. A small depression had formed near the edge of the back nine. It was subtle at first, just a slight dip in the otherwise smooth expanse of grass, but enough to make him slow down and take a closer look. He had walked this course hundreds of times, and nothing like this had ever been there before. The grass around it looked weak, as if it had been disturbed or under stress. Curious, he stepped closer, peering down at the strange indentation. At first, he thought it might have been caused by an animal. Deer were common in the area, and he had seen evidence of burrows made by rabbits and other small creatures. But something didn't feel right. The edges of the depression were uneven, and the soil beneath seemed looser than usual. He knelt down, brushing some of the soil aside with his hand, and noticed a slight dark hollow beneath the surface. It was small, barely wide enough for a person's hand, yet deep enough to catch his attention. His heart started to beat a little faster. He had seen erosion and sinkholes before, but this was unusual. There were no heavy rains recently, no flooding that might explain a sudden collapse of the ground. It was as if the earth had opened up on its own. The groundskeeper stood back, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. He had to be careful. The last thing he wanted was to step too close and fall in. He looked around to make sure no golfers were coming from the back nine, then carefully knelt again to inspect the hollow. He could feel the edges of the soil crumble slightly under his touch, revealing more of the dark cavity. The hole seemed deeper than he initially thought, and a faint, musty smell rose from it. His curiosity mixed with a hint of fear. What could be down there? It looked old, like it had been hidden for a long time, but how could he be sure? He decided to fetch some tools. He went back to the maintenance shed and grabbed a flashlight, a small shovel, and some gloves. Returning to the spot, he carefully shone the flashlight into the hole. The beam revealed nothing at first, only darkness and loose soil. He tried to probe with the shovel, gently moving the dirt aside. To his surprise, he hit something solid. It wasn't just earth. He brushed away more soil and saw a wooden beam, aged and partially buried, stretching into the darkness. He froze, trying to take in what he was seeing. He had never expected to find anything like this. Wood underground suggested construction of some kind, something man-made but old and forgotten. A chill ran down his spine. Realizing the potential seriousness of the find, he stepped back and called his supervisor on the walkie-talkie. The supervisor, a calm and practical man, promised to meet him immediately. While waiting, the groundskeeper kept a careful watch on the hole, making sure no one wandered too close. Golfers passing by noticed the unusual activity and slowed down, peering curiously from a distance. Whispers spread across the course. Some guessed it was an animal den. Others imagined treasure hidden by someone long ago. The groundskeeper smiled faintly at the speculation, but stayed focused on the discovery. He felt responsible for it. After all, it was his job to maintain the course, and now it had turned into something far beyond ordinary maintenance. When his supervisor arrived, the two men knelt beside the hole together. The supervisor's eyes widened slightly when he saw the wooden beam partially exposed from the soil. They both knew they were looking at something unusual. The supervisor suggested calling the local authorities to ensure safety and to properly assess the situation. They quickly made the call, explaining the discovery without exaggeration, just the facts. A sinkhole had appeared, revealing what seemed to be an old wooden structure underground. The next morning, the groundskeeper arrived at the golf course early, even before the sun rose. He felt a mix of anticipation and nervousness as he approached the cordoned-off sinkhole. The previous day's events had been extraordinary, but now the real work was about to begin. Experts and authorities had scheduled a detailed examination, and the groundskeeper was eager to see what they would uncover. The air was cool, carrying a faint smell of damp earth and dew, and the normally quiet course was now alive with quiet urgency as people prepared for the day's investigation. The authorities had set up a temporary station near the hole, and archaeologists and construction experts were already discussing plans to carefully explore the cavity. The groundskeeper watched closely as they measured the edges, examined the soil, and set up ropes and ladders for safe access. He had learned from the previous day to be patient and cautious, and he kept a safe distance while observing the professionals. Even standing back, he could feel the excitement building. There was something thrilling about witnessing history being revealed in real time. As the excavation began, the experts worked slowly and methodically. They first cleared loose soil from the edges of the hole, using small shovels and brushes to avoid disturbing anything inside. The groundskeeper could see the dark cavity growing wider, revealing more of the structure hidden beneath the surface. Wooden beams and stone fragments appeared as the soil was removed, hinting at the age and complexity of the underground space. The ground beneath the golf course, which had always seemed ordinary and familiar, was turning into a portal to the past. Curiosity among local residents had grown, and by mid-morning, several onlookers had gathered behind the safety barriers. They whispered and speculated about what might be hidden below. Some imagined treasure, others thought of old tunnels or secret rooms. The groundskeeper noticed the excitement and the questions in their eyes. It reminded him of the first time he had discovered the depression in the ground. Everyone wanted to know more, but only the experts could provide answers. He felt proud that his careful observation the day before had made all this possible. By late morning, the excavation had revealed a small wooden frame that seemed to outline a narrow passage leading downward. The archaeologists examined it closely, tapping the wood gently and checking its stability. They confirmed it was very old, likely decades, if not over a century in age. This wasn't just a simple hole. It was an entrance to something constructed, deliberately hidden and preserved under the earth. The groundskeeper felt a shiver of amazement. The golf course, a place he had walked hundreds of times, was hiding a secret no one had suspected. He could hardly imagine what lay beyond that small wooden frame. The experts carefully lowered ropes and a small ladder into the passage, preparing to explore the chamber further. The groundskeeper watched as one of the archaeologists climbed down, flashlight in hand, illuminating the dark space. The beam revealed more wooden structures and the faint outline of stone walls. There were small objects scattered on the floor, partially covered by dirt. The archaeologist moved carefully, taking notes and photographs as he explored. The groundskeeper's mind raced with questions. Who had built this? Why had it been hidden? And most importantly, what was inside? Hours passed as the experts worked to secure the area and gradually explore deeper. The groundskeeper remained nearby, observing every detail, learning from their careful and methodical approach. The hole, once a simple curiosity, was now a doorway to history. With every piece of soil removed and every object uncovered, the story of the hidden chamber began to take shape. He noticed old tools, pieces of pottery, and even small wooden chests tucked into corners. Each item seemed to have a purpose, a story, a connection to someone long gone but never forgotten. It was a reminder that ordinary places often hold extraordinary secrets. By the next morning, the excitement at the golf course had grown even more. Word of the discovery had spread through the town, and everyone was curious to see what had been hidden beneath the greens. The groundskeeper arrived early, his heart pounding with anticipation. He had been following the excavation closely, and every day brought new surprises. Today, the experts planned to enter the chamber more fully, examining the objects and structure that had been uncovered so far. The team of archaeologists and construction specialists approached the hole with careful preparation. They set up additional ropes, ladders, and lighting to ensure the safety of anyone who would enter. The groundskeeper watched as they measured distances, tested the stability of the walls, and documented the placement of every object visible from the entrance. The chamber had expanded in the light of careful excavation, revealing its wooden and stone construction. The walls, though worn by time, were remarkably intact, hinting at the skill and care of those who had built it long ago. As the archaeologists began their descent, the groundskeeper noticed the intricate details of the chamber emerging. Wooden beams were carved with patterns, and some stones appeared deliberately shaped to fit together precisely. It was clear that this was not a random construction but a carefully planned space. The chamber seemed to tell a story of a time long before the golf course existed, of people who had labored to create something hidden from the world above. The groundskeeper felt a sense of awe, realizing he was witnessing a connection to a past that had been almost forgotten. Inside the chamber, the archaeologists discovered various objects arranged in ways that suggested intentional placement. There were old tools, some made of iron and some of wood, their surfaces worn smooth by use. Small containers, possibly for storing food or other essentials, were partially buried in soil that had accumulated over decades. Each object seemed to hold a secret, a fragment of the lives of those who had used the chamber. The groundskeeper watched, fascinated, as the experts carefully lifted each item, documenting its location and condition. It was like watching a puzzle being slowly revealed, piece by piece. One of the most intriguing discoveries was a collection of journals and letters, some wrapped in cloth and tied with string. The paper was fragile, browned by age, but legible in parts. The experts handled them with extreme care, using gloves and special tools to prevent further damage. The groundskeeper could barely contain his curiosity as he peered over the edge, trying to catch glimpses of the writing. The words hinted at secret activities, careful planning, and a world that had existed quietly beneath the town for generations. It was a story that had been buried, waiting for someone to uncover it. As the day progressed, the team mapped out the chamber, noting its dimensions and features. The space was larger than anyone had first imagined, with side alcoves and small compartments that held even more objects. The groundskeeper learned that each area might have had a specific purpose, from storage to possibly temporary living quarters. The level of detail in the construction suggested that the builders had intended for the chamber to remain hidden for a long time. It was a testament to their foresight and skill, and the groundskeeper felt privileged to witness the uncovering of such careful craftsmanship. Throughout the morning, more residents arrived to observe from behind the barriers. Some brought cameras, while others simply stood in silence, trying to imagine the lives of the people who had created this hidden space. The groundskeeper spoke with a few of them, sharing his own excitement and observations. He explained how he had noticed the depression in the grass and how careful attention had led to this incredible discovery. People were amazed that such an ordinary place could hold extraordinary secrets. The groundskeeper felt a sense of pride, knowing that his attentiveness had made this moment possible. By mid-afternoon, the experts began to focus the following day. The groundskeeper arrived early once again, feeling a mix of anticipation and nervous excitement. Each morning at the golf course had become a little like stepping into a storybook, the ordinary world above the grass and fairways giving way to an extraordinary secret beneath. The sinkhole was now surrounded by ropes and safety barriers, and the team of archaeologists and construction experts had expanded their equipment. Ladders, lights, and cameras were in place, ready for a more thorough examination of the chamber that had slowly revealed its contents over the past few days. As the experts descended into the chamber, the groundskeeper observed closely from a safe distance. Today the team planned to move deeper into the underground space, exploring areas that had been only partially uncovered. The excitement in the air was palpable, not only for the groundskeeper but also for the few residents who had arrived to watch from behind the barriers. They spoke quietly among themselves, imagining the lives of the people who had once occupied this hidden space, their voices tinged with awe and curiosity. The groundskeeper felt a sense of pride that his attention to detail had led to this remarkable discovery. Inside the chamber, the archaeologists moved carefully, their flashlights illuminating the worn wooden beams and the carefully placed stones. The deeper sections revealed more personal belongings, some hidden within small compartments and others tucked beneath loose soil. The groundskeeper could see that the objects were arranged with purpose. Tools, containers, and even small handmade items suggested that the chamber had been used repeatedly, not just as a temporary hiding place. Each item seemed to tell a story, a connection to the lives of people who had long since vanished but had left traces of their existence behind. Among the most fascinating finds were small wooden chests, partially buried and covered in dust. The experts worked carefully to open them, revealing items that seemed to have been preserved despite the years underground. Coins, tools, and fragments of clothing were discovered, each piece carefully documented and photographed. The groundskeeper was amazed at the level of detail in the preservation. It was as if time had stood still in this hidden space, keeping these objects intact for the moment when someone would finally uncover them. As the day progressed, the archaeologists discovered old journals and letters that provided clues about the people who had used the chamber. Some writings described daily life, while others hinted at secret plans and meetings. The words painted a picture of a community that had lived quietly, carefully protecting their possessions and knowledge from outsiders. The groundskeeper felt a deep sense of connection to these people. Their careful planning and the effort they had taken to hide their belongings spoke to a universal human desire for safety, privacy, and legacy. It was a reminder that ordinary people can leave behind extraordinary stories. The team also found objects that suggested the chamber may have held ceremonial or symbolic importance. Small carvings and patterns on wooden beams hinted at traditions or practices that were meaningful to the builders. The groundskeeper listened as the experts discussed their theories, realizing that the chamber had served multiple purposes over the years. It was a place of utility, but also a space that held deeper meaning for those who had created it. The thought of hidden history beneath the golf course gave him a new appreciation for the land he had walked for so many years. Residents and visitors continued to gather at a safe distance, eager to see the progress. The groundskeeper spoke with some of them, sharing what he had witnessed so far. He explained how his observation of the small depression in the grass had led to the discovery, and how careful excavation was revealing a world hidden for decades. People listened in awe, realizing that ordinary places can hold remarkable secrets if someone pays attention. The groundskeeper felt a quiet satisfaction, knowing that his curiosity and attentiveness had helped bring this story to light. As afternoon approached, the team focu. The following morning, the groundskeeper returned to the golf course with a mixture of excitement and nervous anticipation. The story of the sinkhole and the hidden chamber beneath the fairways had become the center of attention in the town. The local community was fascinated, and the golf course had suddenly transformed from a quiet, ordinary place into a site of historical significance. The groundskeeper felt a sense of pride and responsibility, knowing that his careful observation and attention to detail had led to this remarkable discovery. The experts had planned to continue their excavation and begin cataloging the objects in detail. The groundskeeper watched as archaeologists carefully examined the chambers and side alcoves, documenting every artifact with cameras and notes. The chamber was revealing more than anyone had anticipated. The objects ranged from everyday tools and containers to personal belongings and letters, each one telling a story of people who had lived and worked in secrecy long before the golf course existed. The journals and letters became a central focus. Many were fragile, but the experts carefully unrolled and read them, piecing together the lives of the people who had used the chamber. Some entries described daily routines, while others hinted at secret meetings, plans, and treasures hidden away. The groundskeeper was fascinated by the idea that beneath the neatly trimmed grass of the golf course lay a hidden history of human lives, full of careful planning and quiet resilience. Each new discovery seemed to add depth and dimension to the story, connecting the present to a forgotten past. As the team explored further, they discovered more of the chamber's unique construction. Wooden beams were carved with intricate patterns, and stone walls were carefully aligned. Some compartments had been designed to hold specific items, while others were cleverly concealed. The groundskeeper marveled at the ingenuity and foresight of those who had built it. This was not a simple storage space, but a carefully planned environment, preserved against the test of time. He could imagine the people who had worked here, hiding their belongings and ensuring that their secrets would remain safe for generations. The local residents, reporters, and historians who had come to observe were equally captivated. They stood behind barriers, watching the careful work of the archaeologists and occasionally asking questions. The groundskeeper shared his experience with them, explaining how he had first noticed the small dip in the grass and how it had led to the discovery of the chamber. The community was amazed that an ordinary place they had walked past countless times held such a remarkable secret. The groundskeeper felt a quiet satisfaction, realizing that paying attention to small details could uncover stories that might otherwise remain hidden forever. As the day progressed, the team carefully removed and preserved the objects. They discovered small chests filled with coins, tools, and other items that hinted at trade and daily life. They also uncovered personal belongings, including clothing fragments and handmade items that showed the creativity and care of the people who had lived in the chamber. The journals revealed more about the hidden lives of these individuals, their hopes, fears, and the lengths they had gone to protect their possessions and knowledge. The groundskeeper felt a deep connection to them, recognizing the universal desire for safety, privacy, and the preservation of legacy. One of the most remarkable aspects of the discovery was the chamber's organization. Items were stored methodically, with some objects hidden in compartments designed to be nearly invisible. The experts theorized that the space had been used for generations, with each new occupant adding or rearranging items. The groundskeeper could see the care and thought that had gone into creating and maintaining this hidden world. It was a reminder that even ordinary people can create extraordinary things when necessity, ingenuity, and careful planning come together. By afternoon, the team began to piece together a narrative from the objects and writings. The chamber had served as a hidden refuge, a place to store valuable items, and possibly as a location for private gatherings. The journals mentioned meetings, trades, and careful planning, suggesting that the chamber had been part of a network of hidden spaces or safe havens. The groundskeeper was struck by the idea that his familiar golf course had once been part of a complex hidden system, unknown to the world above. It was thrilling and humbling to realize how much history could lie beneath ordinary surfaces. Throughout the day, the groundskeeper observed the community's reaction. Children, adults, and local historians watched with fascination, asking questions and imagining the lives of the people who had once used the chamber. The discovery had transformed the town, creating a sense of shared history and wonder. The groundskeeper felt proud that his careful attention had brought this story to light. The ordinary task of maintaining a golf course had led to an extraordinary journey into the past. As the sun began to set, the experts carefully secured the chamber and documented the progress of the excavation. The groundskeeper stood back, taking in the scene. The golf course, once a simple place for leisure, had become a bridge to history, connecting the present with the lives of people long gone. Each object, each fragment of writing, and each detail of the chamber added to the story, creating a rich tapestry of human experience hidden beneath the surface. Walking across the greens, the groundskeeper reflected on the journey from the first small depression in the grass to the uncovering of a hidden world. He realized that curiosity, attentiveness, and care could reveal extraordinary secrets in the most ordinary places. The sinkhole had opened a doorway not just into the past but into the imagination and understanding of the present. The golf course would never feel the same again, and neither would he. The hidden chamber had transformed a familiar landscape into a place of wonder and discovery. That night, the groundskeeper returned home, thinking about the incredible day. The story of the sinkhole and the chamber beneath the golf course had captivated the town, and he knew that more discoveries and revelations would follow. He felt connected to the people who had built the chamber, understanding their careful work and their desire to protect what was important. The golf course had become a living reminder that ordinary places can hold extraordinary secrets, waiting for someone to notice and uncover them. As he went to sleep, he felt a sense of fulfillment and anticipation, knowing that the story of the sinkhole was only the beginning of a remarkable journey for the town, the community, and himself. Seed on, exploring the deeper sections of the chamber. Narrow passageways and side alcoves revealed even more objects, some of which were carefully hidden. The groundskeeper was fascinated by the thought that these spaces had been deliberately designed, each with a specific purpose. It became clear that the chamber had been used for generations, with items being added, removed, or rearranged over time. The complexity of the construction and the care taken in hiding and preserving objects impressed everyone present, including the groundskeeper. The archaeologists also began to notice patterns in the arrangement of the objects and the construction of the chamber. Wooden beams were carefully positioned to support the stone walls, and some objects were stored in ways that suggested intentional organization. The journals and letters offered additional clues, with entries mentioning plans, gatherings, and items of value. The groundskeeper marveled at how much thought and effort had gone into creating and maintaining this hidden space. It was more than a simple storage area. It was a reflection of the lives, values, and priorities of the people who had once inhabited it. By late afternoon, the team paused their exploration to review their findings and plan for the next day. The groundskeeper stood at the edge of the cordoned area, reflecting on what he had seen. Each object, each detail of the chamber, added to the story of a hidden past that was slowly emerging. He thought about the people who had built the chamber, their hopes, fears, and determination to protect what mattered most. The discovery had transformed the golf course into a window to history, and the groundskeeper felt privileged to witness it unfolding. As the sun began to set, casting warm light across the fairways, the groundskeeper walked back across the course. The ordinary greens and trees now held an extraordinary story beneath them, a story of human ingenuity, care, and secrecy. He thought about how a simple observation of a dip in the grass had led to uncovering a hidden world, and he felt a renewed sense of purpose in his work. The sinkhole was no longer just a curiosity. It was a doorway to the past, a reminder that even familiar places can hold incredible secrets waiting to be discovered. That night, the groundskeeper went home with a sense of awe and anticipation. He knew that the story of the sinkhole was far from over. Each day brought new revelations, and the chamber continued to reveal the lives and efforts of people long gone. He felt connected to them, understanding that their careful work and hidden objects were a bridge between the past and the present. The golf course had become more than just a place for leisure. It had become a place where history was alive, and he was an important part of that story. As he drifted to sleep, he imagined what new discoveries the next day would bring and felt grateful for the extraordinary journey that had begun with a simple, curious glance at the ground, on the objects that had the most potential to reveal historical significance. They carefully lifted tools, containers, and personal items, cataloging each one. The journals and letters were unrolled and examined, revealing more about the people who had used the chamber. Some writings described daily life, while others hinted at hidden meetings, careful plans, and valuable items kept out of sight. It was clear that this chamber had been important to those who created it, and the groundskeeper felt a growing appreciation for the thought and effort that had gone into its construction. The archaeologists also noticed that some objects appeared to be ceremonial or symbolic in nature. Small carvings and patterns suggested that the chamber had more than just practical use. It may have held personal or spiritual significance to its builders. The groundskeeper was struck by the depth of meaning hidden beneath the golf course. He had always thought of the land in practical terms, a place for grass, trees, and games. Now it was a bridge to a world long past, rich with stories, traditions, and secrets. As the sun began to lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the course, the team decided to pause the exploration for the day. They carefully secured the chamber, ensuring that no soil or objects would be disturbed overnight. The groundskeeper remained nearby, reflecting on the day's discoveries. Every new object, every detail of the chamber, added to the story of a hidden past that was slowly coming to light. He felt a profound connection to the space, a sense of witnessing history in its most tangible form. Walking back across the fairways, the groundskeeper thought about how his routine life had been transformed. What had begun as a simple observation of an unusual dip in the grass had led to the uncovering of a remarkable underground chamber. The golf course, a place of leisure and calm, had revealed itself to be a keeper of secrets, a silent witness to lives long past. He realized that the world could hide incredible things in the most ordinary places, waiting for someone to notice, to pay attention, and to care. As night fell, the groundskeeper looked back one last time at the cordoned-off sinkhole. The chamber below remained a mystery, filled with objects, stories, and history that had been hidden for decades. He felt a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. He had witnessed something extraordinary, and the journey of discovery was far from over. The golf course had become a place where the past and present intersected, where careful observation and curiosity revealed the hidden layers of life that existed just beneath the surface. The groundskeeper went home that night with a sense of wonder, knowing that tomorrow would bring even more revelations, and that the story of the sinkhole was only beginning to unfold. The archaeologists shared their preliminary findings with the authorities and the groundskeeper. They speculated that the chamber might have been used for storage or as a hiding place during a time of need. Some of the objects suggested it had been used repeatedly, while others seemed to have been left in haste. The groundskeeper listened carefully, fascinated by the possibilities. The golf course, a place of leisure and calm, had suddenly become part of a larger hidden narrative. It was hard to reconcile the peaceful green fairways with the mysterious underground world revealed beneath them. By afternoon, the chamber had been partially cleared, revealing more details about its construction. Stone walls reinforced with wooden beams created a small room, surprisingly well preserved despite the years underground. The objects inside were arranged in a way that suggested thought and care. There were tools for daily life, small containers, and even handwritten notes, though many had been partially damaged by time. The groundskeeper could hardly contain his curiosity. He wanted to see everything up close, but he respected the professional's need for careful handling. He knew that rushing could damage something irreplaceable. The news of the discovery spread quickly. Local reporters arrived, cameras in hand, eager to capture the story. They interviewed the groundskeeper, who recounted how he had first noticed the depression in the grass and how his careful observation had led to the discovery. He spoke simply, without exaggeration, sharing his amazement and pride. The reporters listened, clearly fascinated by the ordinary man who had uncovered an extraordinary secret. The groundskeeper felt a mix of humility and satisfaction. He had simply done his job and noticed something unusual, yet the impact of that small act was far greater than he had imagined. By evening, the first day of excavation and exploration concluded. The experts carefully secured the chamber, ensuring that it would be safe for further study the next day. The groundskeeper stood nearby, watching as the lights were packed away and the temporary barriers were adjusted. He felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had seen the hidden chamber for the first time, witnessed the uncovering of objects that told stories of people long gone, and realized the importance of observation and curiosity. The golf course had revealed its secret, and the discovery would continue to unfold in the days ahead. As he walked back to the maintenance shed, the groundskeeper couldn't help but reflect on the day. The ordinary routine of his job had transformed into an extraordinary adventure. What had started as a simple observation of a small dip in the grass had grown into a significant historical discovery. The golf course would never feel the same again. Each blade of grass, each fairway, each quiet corner now seemed to hold the potential for secrets waiting to be uncovered. He felt a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that paying attention, being curious, and caring for his surroundings could lead to remarkable experiences. The hidden chamber had opened a door not just into the past, but into a story that would captivate the entire town and beyond. Within an hour, police officers and emergency responders arrived, carefully inspecting the area and cordoning it off. They checked the stability of the ground and made sure no one could accidentally fall in. The groundskeeper felt a strange mix of pride and nervousness. What had started as a normal day of mowing grass had turned into the beginning of something extraordinary. As he stood back, watching the professionals assess the situation, he wondered how deep the hole went and what secrets it might hold. He could hardly believe that the familiar golf course, a place of leisure and routine, was now the site of a mysterious discovery. Word of the sinkhole spread quickly. Nearby residents came to see from a safe distance, curious about the sudden disruption in their otherwise peaceful town. Some speculated wildly, imagining everything from hidden treasure to long-forgotten tunnels. The groundskeeper listened quietly, not saying much, letting the professionals handle the situation. Yet inside, he couldn't shake the growing excitement. His eyes kept drifting back to the small hollow in the ground, the first glimpse of something hidden and secret, waiting patiently to be discovered. As the day went on, more equipment arrived. Flashlights, ropes, and measuring tools were brought to the site to carefully examine the hole. The authorities worked slowly, not wanting to disturb anything too quickly. The groundskeeper observed their methodical approach, learning as he went. Each careful movement revealed more about the size and structure of the cavity. It was more than a simple sinkhole. It had a shape, a purpose, and evidence of human touch. That realization sent a shiver down his spine. He had stumbled upon a part of history, hidden beneath the surface of his everyday workplace, something no one had seen for decades, maybe even longer. By evening, the immediate assessment was complete, and the site was secured for further investigation the next day. The groundskeeper stood at the edge of the cordoned area, exhausted yet exhilarated. He had started the day with ordinary tasks, tending to grass and trees, and ended it witnessing the uncovering of a hidden secret. He couldn't stop thinking about what might be inside, what stories the hidden chamber could tell. The familiar greens and fairways now held an entirely new layer of mystery. As he left for the day, the sun setting behind the distant hills, he knew this was only the beginning of an incredible journey, one that would change not just the golf course, but the understanding of the town's past.